Why couldn't we as an industry go out and lease 20 floors of a 50-storey building in the middle of any major city and have those set aside for our residents, or even a number of apartments scattered through the building. If you buy apartment 14 comes with the right to services, and we have a call system and we have all those services, yet apartment 15 there could be somebody else living. Is there any problem with that, Narelle? Could that work, do you think?
I don't see a problem with it. I don't think the industry is ready for it tomorrow, but I think certainly in the future it is definitely something we'll see. And I think Australia is a fairly culturally diverse population and will continue to be so. And there's many other cultures who like to take care of their parents and have them very close by, if not in their own houses. So it'd be a great solution to have them nearby but not have to have them in the house with you.
Okay, so lawyers out there, start working on how we're going to get retirement village notices on bits of buildings and not the rest of the buildings if they're not going to be actually separately titled. That's just something for you to start thinking about, because we're going to have a whole lot of legislative and regulatory barriers to this wonderful idea which 3 out of 4 of us like, and one at the end isn't all that keen on. But there's always one in every group, and we accept that. And it's a question of being flexible in your thinking, I suppose. But the reality is that so far we haven't seen high-rise in this country at all, have we? I mean, I think on the Gold Coast there's one which is empty, I think. Any receivers in the audience? You'll know the one I'm talking about. Big tall one. Now, here we go. I've got a question directed at me. Peter, I better read it first. Your village is 20 years old. Pool, gym and steam room are all closed up. Average age is 80. What would you do? I can't read all of it. Can you guys read it? What would you do to make relevant again? Okay. Well, there's no doubt there's plenty of those around. They're everywhere. What do we do with obsolete communal facilities? Narelle, I'm going to start with you because you're the consultant to the industry. You've seen plenty of villages that you've listed for sale. You've walked in there, you said, oh my goodness, before we get this, it's like going to the residential house. Before we can sell the house, we need a coat of paint, bake a chocolate cake, make it smell nice. What do we do with this old village when we're trying to sell it with the gym, pool and steam room and an average age of 80? What can we do?
Okay, so I think if no thought's been given at the onset, then it's a much more difficult problem to deal with. In building a new village, I think it was really important for people to have consideration about what the alternative use can be for some of these things that they're putting in that they know they won't need in 10 years' time, for example. So that should be an easier fix for villages going forward if they actually factor it into their planning and build design from the onset. But for one that's at that point, I don't know, a big dining room.
A dining room?
It's pretty difficult. I don't know what
it's a tough one. David will know the answer to this because he's got heaps of them.
Yeah, it's whether you can get them activated again or not. We all know residents don't like paying, particularly once they've been closed down. But in terms of keeping people engaged with those facilities can actually depend on the staff that you have in your site. So, for instance, if you can get hold of someone who was a good lifestyle coordinator in a past life that's quite active, that really encourages health promotion in your village, you may actually find that building up of exercise and encouragement to use facilities may actually go to some way to activating some of those things again. I think the pool may be a hard ask simply because of the sheer costs of reactivating a pool, but certainly the gym, I think you could easily get that back up with just some good staff and good health promotion.
You're doing a brand new village now, and I know you're doing a couple. Have they got pools?
And one of the two has.
And why did you decide to put one in one and not one in the other?
The location. The one with the pool was in Darwin, and it's an outside pool.
And do you think it'll be used?
Look, it's being used extensively at the moment, but clearly it's a new village, like you're saying, that they're attracted by that. However, we're also trying to promote exercise classes and health promotion, and over time we probably want to engage the older community in the surrounding areas to get engaged with the facility to keep it active and vibrant.
In other words, you're going to be renting the pool out to outsiders?
Possibly, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. and with more like a club approach. So we're looking at the opportunity of, do we provide a membership to older people in the surrounding areas, or to at least our waiting list, to come and use the facilities at certain times, so they can actually get comfortable with the environment and get to use it, and also we'd benefit out of the use of that as well.
That was very optimistic what you just said then. That was very optimistic. You use the word waiting list.
Yes.
So are you confident you'll have a waiting list for your Darwin village? It's at Fanny Bay, isn't
We
it?
do.
Is that the Fanny Bay one?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, someone make a note. 10 years from now, we'll ask David about his pool. 2023 conference, you'll still be here. We'll be older, we'll be wiser.
I've been here for so long now, I can't.
Yeah, but you know, all jokes aside, a pool in Darwin does make sense, I would have thought, because you can't swim in the rivers because there's too many crocodiles.
Exactly right.
That must have been part of your thinking. How do you make a vibe? I think, how do you get vibe in a high rise? So let's just go back to our high rise. Is it going to be harder? Is it harder to create soul? Vibe, we talked about vibe. I used to call it soul. I used to kind of do presentations and talk about creating soul. And you create soul by management who really care. And we saw the corporatisation of our industry in the last financial cycle, when a lot of the smaller operators sold out to the bigger operators, and most of the bigger guys are here. And one of the criticisms, and somewhat unfairly it's in some organisations, has been that the larger organisations, because of the management structure, have lost the ability to actually connect with their residents, therefore losing the vibe, losing the soul. Part of being able to create community is having the community interact with each other. So when you have a village with a community centre which is inaccessible or hard to get to, that's harder to kind of create that feeling. In a high-rise, how do you do it? I might even answer this one myself. I think it's the same as any development. You have to draw your residents out. You've got to draw them into the communal facilities, and you've got to deliver that type of service that creates the vibe. Maybe more difficult when you've got outsiders. Hence the concept, in my view, the high-rise would work really well, but we need a block of units in a building, separate lift well, separate community centres. We happen to be sharing a structure with outsiders to reduce cost. That's the way I see it actually emerging.
Yeah,
David.
I'd comment on that. We've got quite a successful club on the ground floor of an apartment building that we have in Adelaide, and there's 2 other mini retirement villages on that site that also have access to that. And it really gets down to the strength of the staff to create a whole lot of activity that residents are actually interested in, and create that sense of community. And that's what you really need to do to keep these places ticking over.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And one of our